Hi guys, are you ready to start reading mysteries with me? So, I have created my own R mystery bingo, is what I'm calling it. From the title, you can see that it's very much inspired by the R fantasy bingo that happens every year. And as someone who consumes a lot of bookish content, I've seen so many people reading and taking part of the R fantasy bingo, and I was a bit envious. I wanted my own version, but one that was specifically targeted and tailor made for mystery books. And if you can't see it, why not make it yourself? But a massive shout out to Wicked Reading, who created her own horror version of the R Fantasy Bingo. Because when I saw her version, I thought, yeah, absolutely, I am definitely going to make my own mystery version. So this is very much inspired by the two of those in tandem. Since creating this, I've created this ages ago. It's been sitting on the back burner. But since creating this, I've seen somebody else has also created a mystery bingo based off of those same two ideas, and I'll make sure to put them in the comments. But when I'm watching, I think only one of our prompts are the same, or maybe a couple prompts are the same. So maybe take part in both if you're a voracious mystery reader, or I think there's space for everybody. But yeah, I just want to let you know that I have had this idea for a while. So shout out to her. Great minds think alike.
I'm just like you. I'm just like you. You're just like me. You're just like me. It's something anyone can see.
So, there are so many different bingos that you can do at the moment. And so why not have a look at my mystery one and see if it tickles your fancy. Now, I am affectionately calling this at the moment Mysteries with Morals, because I didn't mean to make it so politically minded, but I suppose I am politically minded, and I do want to diversify my reading and make my reading very intentional. And so therefore it bled into the types of prompts that I picked for my own bingo. And you know what? I love her for it. I think she's so cute. I think she is very cognizant of the world that we live in, and is challenging me to try and make sure that my mystery books also reflect the world I want to see in. And I love myself for that. So, like the R Fantasy Bingo, there's two versions of this. There's an easy mode and there is a hard mode. Feel free to read either or whichever bingo best suits you. Feel free to try and tick those off. In addition, yes, I'm releasing this for 2026, but take as long or as little as you want to complete bingo. Now, you don't have to go for a full blackout. That's where every single prompt is complete. You could do a blackout, you could do a row, you could do a diagonal, any sort of bingo orientation. I don't mind. I love bingo, so I really don't care. You choose the way that what I would just say is, before you take part, choose what bingo pattern you are trying to hit first, rather than retroactively fit a bingo pattern onto it, if you understand what I mean. Are there any other rules? I'm not sure. Do you want to double up? Am I going to allow double ups? Really and truthfully, it's your own challenge. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Me personally, I'm not going to double up. I'm going to say like one book per prompt. However, especially if you're not going for full blackout, that's why I'm leaning towards that as my response, as opposed to allowing like double ups. I think if I was going for you have to black out this board, then I would say, yeah, double up. So, but as I said, take that with a grain of salt, do whatever the hell you want to. This is just the board that I have come up with. Again, there'll be all the graphics and stuff down below in like the description box, where you can have a look at it in your own time. Lastly, let's talk prompts. I'll do a whistle stop tour, hopefully. And yeah, if you have any questions, please ask me in the comments down below, and I'll try and get back to you. And I'll also do a follow-up video with recommendations, I reckon. And yeah, I'm excited, and I hope you are too. The first prompt is a historical suspense, as I love historicals, but the hard mode is not set in historical England or America. There are so many Regency England books, or Victorian, or 1920s America, and I would just challenge you to try and think outside of that. And I'd also try and challenge you to not read a book in a series where they happen to go abroad, if you get what I mean. So yeah, as I said, I'll do recommendations and I can give you some examples. The next prompt is self-explanatory titles. I've noticed that there's been such a rise in these. They've always been a thing, but I'm really starting to notice a rise of a certain type of self-explanatory titles. Is exactly what it says on the tin, where the title is telling you what is going to happen in this book. Like How to Kill Your Family. This is self-explanatory because the book is literally about a woman telling you how to kill your family and get away with it. The hard mode prompt is it has to feature a pun in some sort of way. There are so many puns in mystery books. Let's lean into it and enjoy that fun aspect. I love a pun me. The next one is to read a true crime of some sort, with the hard mode being not a murder. So I read a true crime book about a catfish not too long ago, and I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, there are so many other crimes out there. If you have been in love with all things the Louvre robbing, why not read a true crime book about a heist, perhaps, or jewelry robbery? You know what I mean? There are so many crimes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about a murder. Or even there's a new environmental book that I'm reading called Green Crime, and that's about crimes against the environment. Do you know what I mean? Come on, guys, think outside the box. Then we've got Feminine Rage, a book featuring feminine rage, with the hard mode being intersectional feminine rage. So it can't just be a white woman in this mystery. Well, I'm saying mystery, by the way, guys, but I hope you know this is more of like a crime suspense bingo. So anything that fits under that umbrella, feel free to read any kind of books, because there tends to be a lot more feminine rage, more in like a thrillery side of life. But yeah, it has to be intersectional. So whether this is a woman of color, maybe a trans woman, and I think this is important because rage takes on a very different meaning when it comes from a marginalized person, and can they get away with rage in the same way that white women tend to be able to? And then we've got an elderly main character, mainly because ageism is real, but the hard mode is that it has to have been published before the Thursday Murder Club. Now I love the Thursday Murder Club, but I think a lot of people think it was revolutionary in the fact that it followed older characters, where in the mysteries, like think of Miss Marple. It's been happening for such a long time to follow elderly or older main characters in mysteries, and so I would just challenge people to try and find one that was written before Thursday Murder Club. Then it's a book written with a disabled main character, with the hard prompt being it has to be written by a disabled author as well. After that, we've got Sunset Crime, which is basically just a book set in Africa or Oceania, pretty much. I'm not sure about Swana. Probably Swana countries would probably also count. Basically, it's just the opposite of Nordic crime, Nordic noir. And Nordic noir is so big. It's such a big subsect at the moment. Well, there's people who absolutely love it. And I tend to find that there's less representation for the Sunset Crime, and like, let's make it a thing, guys. Let's make it a thing where books from authors from Africa and Oceania are being just as widely celebrated. The hard mode prompt is that it has to be one set outside of Australia. I say outside of Australia because whilst I say that Sunset Crime isn't as popular as Nordic noir, Australian crime fiction is actually quite popular. So let's try and look at Sunset Crime, but again, staying away from the super popular aspect of it and not letting Australia just dominate over this entire like sub trope. I don't know what you call it, but yeah. Then we have a science fiction and fantasy genre blend. This is just a throwback to the fact that this is inspired by the R fantasy bingo board. So if you're doing both, this is a great, what do you call it? Like bingo plot? Like prompt. Anyway, yeah, this is a great prompt for you. A genre blend. So we're thinking the Tainted Cup, for example. But then the hard mode is 3+ genre blends, and this doesn't have to be a science fiction or fantasy genre. It just has to blend at least 3 genres together. So that could be a dystopian mystery romance. I don't know, but I'm sure one exists. Next up, we have something that's illustrated in some way, or illustration takes a big part of the storytelling. So this is a graphic novel, a comic, a manga, etc., with the hard prompt being a female illustrator. The next prompt is called Anti-Propaganda. That's what I've titled it, but the prompt is just to read a book where the police are ineffectual, they're rubbish, they're not good, they can't solve the crime. So basically, most amateur sleuths. It's just to highlight that a lot of mystery and thriller media is propaganda in some way, shape, or form. And so this prompt is just to try and go against that a little bit and think, because a lot of times the police can be rubbish and ineffectual and useless, and so that's what we're reading about in this square. And with the hard prompt being that the police are the actual villains of the book. Then we have a translated book, with the hard mode being it can't be from a European language. Again, throwing back to like how popular Nordic noir is. So yeah, I would also try and say maybe not Japanese, but that's my own. Followed up by Hidden Gem, which is a book with under 5,000 ratings on Goodreads. Now, you don't have to have a Goodreads account, but you can just like go and visit it on Goodreads and see if it has less than 5,000 ratings. If it has less than 5,000 ratings, then I would say that's pretty well hidden. But you can change that rating to lower. If you think 5,000 is too easy, then please bring it lower. Please don't bring it higher though. Please and thanks. Please and thanks. The hard rate is it has to have been published at least 5 years ago. Because there are a lot of like new books, for example, that at the time of you reading them, they might not have more than 5,000 review ratings, but that's simply because it's just not been out long enough, you know? Then a prompt that is on, I think, most bingos is written by an author of colour. But my hard mode is it has to have Indigenous representation. So it has to be an Indigenous author of colour. An Indigenous author of colour. It was important for me to have this as a hard mode prompt because of all of the injustices and crimes committed to Indigenous peoples around the world. And so I thought it would be good to explore that topic in fiction. Again, next up is a common prompt. It has to have an LGBTQIA plus main character, with the hard mode being, again, let's make them intersectional, please, if we can. The next easy one is, I think, going to be one of the most challenging for me in terms of the easy prompts, and that's it has to be a short story. I don't tend to read mystery short stories very often, but I would like to give them a go. With the hard mode being, it has to be an award winner. I don't know if that's actually that hard, but I actually think it might be easier for me, but that is the hard mode. Okay, because it does narrow it down. If you had like a short story that you wanted to specifically, no, it has to have won an award of some kind. It's easier for me because I don't have any short stories that I want to read. So it's like pointing me in the direction. Actually, that's a lie. I suppose there are some Sherlockian short stories that I could have read. But anyway, you have to read a book from a long running series. So this is a series that has at least 5 books in it. The mystery genre can be known for having like super long running series, and I love it for that. So this prompt is just championing that. With the hard mode being that the series has to have at least minimum 10 books in it. Absolutely, absolutely. Because why even pick up a series if it doesn't have at least 10 books in it? Shout out to the publishers. This one is a book that has been published by a small press or has been self-published. With the hard mode that is new to you. So either it's a new to you self-published author or it's a new to you small press. Up next, social media recommendation. That's any kind of social media recommendation. So if there's a mystery book that I've said that I've loved, you can take my recommendations all you want. But also the hard mode, however, is that it has to be a podcast recommendation. I love bookish podcasts, so this is the chance for you to listen to one of them, get some ideas from them, and see what you think. You know, I love Sherlock Holmes, so we've got a Holmesian detective. Quick note, do you say Holmesian? Do you say Sherlockian? I love saying Sherlockian, but I think the common one is Holmesian, so I've written that down. A Holmesian detective. So basically a genius detective will probably do. With the hard prompts being that it's gender flipped, so it has to be a female or non-binary Sherlock type character. Then we've got a falsely accused main character. Again, this is very popular if you are a cozy mysteries. If you love reading cozy mysteries, this will be very easy for you. But the hard mode is that not only are they accused, they have to be arrested. Basically, we're looking at miscarriage of justice here. Okay, justice has not been served for our main character. Final row, read local. I've really struggled with defining what local is to me, but I think your local, not your country. Your country's not local enough, but anything smaller than a country, I'll take as reading locally. With the hard prompts being that it has to be your town. Now again, try and think broader than your city, because if you live in New York, I want you to try and get to your borough of New York. Basically, I say I live in London. I do live in London. I want to go to my borough of London here. Do you understand what I mean? However, if you can't find anything, then I'll let you expand a little bit to like a region within your city. But again, if you live in a town, that's where you're reading from. We are supporting local authors, and we are also going to support our local libraries with the next prompt of a library recommendation, with the hard mode being that you have to ask your librarian. For the easy prompts, you can say if it's been recommended on a list by your library, that's library recommendation. Like any sort of way that you've gotten, that you've had contacted the library and the library has recommended it. If it's a recommendation on Libby, fine. But the hard prompt is you have to talk to people. I'm so sorry. We have to do some talking, and we have to talk to our librarian. Another easy one is a book that is published in 2026, but the hard version is that you have to read it in the same month that it was published. I know I was thinking about, like, is this accessible in terms of people's finances or whatever, but I thought it's not hard mode for it's not called hard mode for no reason. It's supposed to be a little bit more difficult. And I think that's the only one that's like really like asking people to like spend necessarily. For books, I thought it was okay. But if you can't, then change it. There was a prompt that I wanted to use, and I probably will use next year. So feel free to change that out for this prompt, which is basically where the victim can't be a woman. I was at an author event and they were talking about how like it was important for them that the main victim wasn't a woman, because actually when you have a look at the stats, most murder victims are actually men, which is not something that you would tend to see in the fiction that you're reading. Most of the time it's women that are dying. I thought that's such an interesting point. Like, why is it that women are overrepresented in that area? Why do we always want to see women dying? Anyway, I didn't manage to fit it in this year, so maybe swap out this one if you're like, I can't financially afford it, or it's not financially feasible, or even financially smart, or even if I don't want to. There you go. That's your option there. And then second to last one, we've got a parent main character, with the hard mode being that they're a guardian. So they can't be, the main character cannot have given birth to them, because you know what? There were other types of parenting, there are other types of guardianships that are important and that we should try and see represented in our fiction. Not just like, I gave birth to children. Like, you can care for children in a myriad of different ways. And then lastly, we have Eat the Rich. Just a book where a rich person dies, or a rich person doesn't have to die, actually, has to be the victim. A rich person is the victim, with the hard mode being that it's some sort of class commentary. Now, this is very loosey goosey. It's not a solidified like prompt, so it's going to be based on what you think is commentary. Okay, but your big people, you can fill out that prompt as much as you want. And so yeah, that's my 2026 bingo, mystery bingo. What do you think? What do you think about my prompt choosing? I was mulling over it for a while, and I think I've landed on a space that I'm overall happy with it. Okay, so let me know what you think, and let me know if you're gonna participate. And I'm so excited for 2026 and all the mystery reading that we're gonna do, and all of the ways that we're gonna diversify the books that we're reading, specifically the mystery books that we're reading next year. All right, guys, have a lovely New Year's, and I'll see you then.